If you've ever felt a woman slowly stopped respecting you and you couldn't pinpoint when it happened, this video is for you. Because here's the truth, most men never want to face. Women don't gradually lose respect by accident. That shift only happens when a man fails to set boundaries early enough to prevent it. In the early stages of dating, there are 5 critical boundaries that decide whether she sees you as a man she respects or a man she eventually takes for granted. Mise even 1, and you'll spend months confused, overgiving, and wondering how the dynamic flipped without warning. This isn't about being cold. It's not about manipulation, and it's definitely not about controlling women. It's about recognizing the exact moments where men unknowingly surrender leverage and how to stop doing that before attraction turns into tolerance. If you don't learn these boundaries early, you won't just lose her respect. You'll lose yourself trying to win it back. Most dating advice teaches men how to react after things go wrong. This video teaches you how to position yourself so you never have to react at all. The difference isn't confidence. It isn't charisma. It's structure. Boundaries create structure. Structure determines who leads the dynamic and who adapts to it. If you're ready to stop guessing and start understanding, subscribe now, because once you see how these dynamics actually form, you stop chasing outcomes and start controlling your position. And that shift begins with the first boundary most men ignore. Boundary 1. Never opened financial access before she's earned it. Men confuse sharing with bonding. You think talking about money is harmless conversation, transparency, authenticity, being relaxed. But that's not how it lands. To a woman early on, financial information isn't intimacy, it's data. The moment you start mentioning your income, your savings, your investments, your car, or the trips you're planning, something subtle but permanent happens. You stop being a man she's discovering and start becoming a man she's measuring. Not emotionally, practically. This is what I call the provider audition. She hasn't chosen you. She hasn't committed. She hasn't invested. Yet you're already on stage, proving your usefulness. And the dangerous part? You usually don't even realize it's happening. You casually mention a bonus. You joke about your salary. You talk about how much you've saved. You think it's just conversation, but in her mind, an assessment quietly begins. Stability, capacity, access. From that moment on, attraction shifts. It stops being emotional and becomes evaluative. Here's the truth most men don't want to hear. Once a woman starts evaluating your wallet, she stops feeling you. Curiosity becomes calculation. Tension becomes expectation. And she doesn't need to ask you for money for this shift to occur. All she has to do is notice how freely you expose it, how eager you are to signal provision, how quickly you turn finances into proof of worth. Men do this because they were taught that providing equals value, and security equals desirability. But early on, provision doesn't build attraction, it replaces Italiano. You're no longer the man she wants. You're the man she's assessing for utility. That's why this boundary matters so early. Because once the frame changes, you don't get it back. You can't talk your way out of being evaluated. You can't charm mystery back into existence. The moment financial evaluation starts, attraction becomes transactional. When you step in too soon and start solving her financial stress, the shift isn't subtle. You don't become her partner, you become her support system. That's the role downgrade most men never see coming. The moment you say, "I've got you," without commitment, you volunteer responsibility without authority. You give provision without position. And once that happens, the dynamic hardens. She may appreciate you, but appreciation is not desire. Gratitude is not attraction. This is where the financial tests appear. They're indirect. She mentions money being tight. A bill stressing her out. A car issue that's expensive to fix. She's not asking, she's observing. Watching how fast you move. Watching whether you feel compelled to rescue. Watching if pressure collapses your boundaries. Most men fail here because they confuse generosity with leadership. They rush in thinking it proves value. In reality, it proves predictability. And predictable men get placed into utility roles. The correct response doesn't require speeches or explanations. You don't justify. You don't over-explain. You don't apologize. You stay calm. You stay grounded. You close the door without slamming it. Supportive, but firm. No offers. No guilt. no entanglement. And here's what surprises men most. A woman who is genuinely interested respects this immediately. Not because she is attesting less, but because she feels safer with a man who protects his structure. A woman with unclear intentions may feel irritated. She may pull back. She may lose interest. That's not loss. That's filtration. This boundary doesn't repel women. It removes the ones who are only there for what you could provide. Leadership begins where access is controlled. Boundary 2. Never tolerate disrespect, especially the quiet kind. Most men think disrespect is loud. Raised voices, insults, open hostility. That's why they miss it when it actually matters. Real disrespect doesn't announce itself. It slips in quietly and waits to see if you stop it. It looks like interruptions. Passive jokes at your expense. Relax. I'm just teasing. Casual comparisons to her ex. Ignoring your messages while expecting instant replies. None of these feel big enough to confront, and that's exactly why they work. Psychologically, this isn't cruelty, it's evaluation. She's asking one silent question. Can I get away with this? Women test boundaries the way water tests cracks, slowly, incrementally, one small push at a time. If nothing pushes back, pressure increases. Here's a situation many men recognize. You're out together. Friends are around. Someone asks how things are going. She smirks and says something like, "He's fine," when he's not being clueless. People laugh. She laughs. You smile and let it go. But something just happened. She lowered your status publicly and watched what you did next. Disrespect tests aren't about the comment. They're about your response. When you let it slide, you aren't being laid back. You're signaling that your self-respect is flexible. Silence isn't composure. Silence is consent. That's the mistake men make when they think staying quiet looks mature. What you're actually communicating is simple. This behavior is allowed. And once a woman learns she can step over you without consequence, she will not out of malice, but because you showed her the line doesn't exist. Here's what men don't anticipate. When she disrespects you publicly and you allow it, her friends notice. They don't see you as easygoing, they see you as a man who doesn't defend himself. Their perception shifts first. Theirs follows. Because once a woman sees you tolerate being diminished in front of others, she knows she can do it privately too. The tone changes. Effort drops. Attraction erodes. Not suddenly, permanently. High-value men don't explode. They don't clap back. They don't create drama. They respond immediately, calmly, and directly. One sentence, no edge, no explanation, no emotion. That response resets the frame. It communicates self-respect without hostility. This isn't about controlling her behavior. It's about enforcing your standards. Respect isn't earned through patience. It isn't preserved through endurance. And it is never protected by silence. Respect is enforced. Boundary 3. Never make your time freely available. Just because you like her, this is where most men sabotage themselves early. You think availability shows interest. You think saying yes quickly shows enthusiasm. You think rearranging your life proves commitment. From nearsighted, it reads very differently. Constant availability doesn't signal desire. It signals a lack of structure. Women don't evaluate men in isolation. They evaluate the life surrounding him. Here's the pattern. You meet someone you like. The chemistry is good. Attention feels mutual. And because you don't want to lose momentum, you begin reacting instead of leading. Plans get cancelled. Commitments get moved. Your schedule becomes flexible just in case. Not because you're irresponsible, because you're afraid of losing her. And that fear is what she feels. Psychologically, she isn't just asking, does he like me? She's asking, does this man have a life that can hold me without collapsing? When your time becomes open access, she doesn't feel chosen. She feels prioritized at the expense of everything else. And paradoxically, attraction drops. Men think scarcity repels women. In reality, lack of structure repels them faster. A man who drops everything doesn't look invested, he looks in. And women don't trust men without anchors. This boundary isn't about playing hard to get. It's about protecting the foundation of your life. When your time loses value, So do you. A man who treats his time like currency is always in demand, not because he is una bailable, but because his life had direction before she entered it. When you protect your schedule, she stops seeing you as someone she can summon, and starts seeing you as someone she must meet halfway. Time creates anticipation when it isn't on demand. Saying no doesn't kill momentum, it sharpens it. Self-control signals maturity. Being busy isn't attractive. Purpose is. When your time is protected, attraction has room to breathe. When your time is unlimited, attraction suffers. You don't win by being constantly present. You win by being consistently grounded. Boundary 4. Never become her emotional dumping ground before commitment. This is one of the most seductive traps because it feels like connection. She opens up quickly, talks about her ex, her trauma, her chaos. Every man who hurt her, she cries. Says she's never felt this understood, and you think it means something. But emotional dumping isn't intimacy. It's recruitment. She's testing how much emotional labor you'll carry before she invests in you. And most men volunteer without realizing the cost. You listen for hours, reassure, stay up late, give advice, absorb her emotional weight. Slowly, the frame shifts. You're no longer the man she desires, you're the man she stabilizes herself with. Men confuse emotional access with emotional bonding. Trust, without investment, doesn't create attraction, it creates utility. Masculine polarity dies the moment you become her emotional container too early. Mystery fades. Tension dissolves. Desire flattens. And you can't negotiate your way out of that role. This boundary isn't about being cold, it's about pacing intimacy. You can listen without carrying, care without collapsing, be present without being responsible. The mistake isn't empathy, it's Women bond with the man they invest in emotionally, not the man who carries them for free. Healthy pacing preserves polarity. Intimacy that isn't earned doesn't build desire, it builds dependence. And dependence kills attraction. Boundary 5. Never panic when she pulls back. This is where most men undo everything. The connection was good. Then replies slow. Energy drops. And instead of staying grounded, you panic. That panic leads to 3 mistakes. You fill the silence. You reassure. You overcompensate. More mensajes. More availability. More effort. And the moment you increase effort in response to withdrawal, the balance shifts. She holds the frame. You chase it, attraction suffocates. A woman cannot miss what's constantly trying to close the gap. Pulling back isn't always a test. Sometimes it's clarity forming, but panic guarantees the same outcome every time. Loss of leverage. Attraction doesn't return through effort, it returns through space. When you stop rewarding distance with increased attention, one of 2 things happens, both in your favor. If she's interested, if she doesn't return, the truth was already there. You didn't lose her, you stopped chasing something that required you to abandon yourself. Absence restores polarity. Effort in response to withdrawal destroys it. What you've learned isn't dating advice, it's a system. 5 boundaries. 1 framework, 1 purpose, protecting your value before someone else defines it. These boundaries don't control women. They prevent you from losing yourself trying to be chosen. Boundaries don't make you harder to love. They make real love possible. You don't gain power by demanding more from women. You gain power by requiring more from yourself. If this resonated, subscribe. This channel isn't here to comfort you. It's here to make sure you never lose yourself again.